we are doing a Q&A with Simon from RTB House, and today's topic is consumer behaviour as we approach Black Friday. So Simon, I purposely didn't mention your surname there, but would you be kind enough to introduce yourself, tell us how to pronounce that name, and give us a little bit of detail about RTB House?
That's a good move. So I'm Simon Trewavas. It's a very old English Cornish surname. So I'm fairly easy to find on LinkedIn. It's probably the best way of putting it. So I'm country manager for RTB House here in the UK. If you're not familiar with us, we are a marketing technology company. We work with retailers, both omnichannel and pure plays, to help find and convert consumers over the web and app environment. We do that with personalization and via deep learning, so the most advanced subset of artificial intelligence.
Very fancy. And where in the world are you talking to us from?
So we're hybrid. So we do have offices in London, but today I'm coming at you from Epsom.
Epsom. I too am in Epsom. We could have done this on a one-to-one in the same screen. Oh, never mind. That would have been a treat.
It would have been brilliant. I should have popped over.
So let's crack on with the questions. So you guys, you quite clearly, you work with some pretty big retailers on their advertising campaigns. So from what you guys have been seeing, how have those advertising campaigns shifted to adapt to different consumer behaviours?
It's a great question. So I think the world's changed a lot. So I'm going to cast my mind back actually to 2020, which now feels like a long time ago, but I think we're all still scarred from that environment. So throughout the pandemic, I think one of the things which really started shifting consumer behaviour was everyone's intention about where and how to shop. So McKinsey did some really interesting research, and they found that 44% of shoppers in the UK were actually interested in trying new brands and trying new retailers. At a moment when everyone thought we'd all be doing very traditional and sticking with what we know in terms of shopping behaviours, everything changed. And I think since then to now, if we look at the wider economic conditions and also the impact of what's happening across the globe, lots of consumer behaviours have really, really changed. And we're in different territory. But there's a few things that we've picked up and noticed about advertising campaigns, particularly this year. So one of the things that's become more prominent is with retailers actually using promotional campaigns outside of traditional periods. So quite often we'd be thinking about it's a traditional time, it might be coming to Christmas, it might be coming to summer, but actually people are doing things differently this year. There's been a lot of talk about how to surprise and delight customers over the last couple of years, and now I feel it's a tactic which some retailers are employing to turn up and show up with really interesting promotions outside of that traditional period, and it's making an impact. So that's some of the things that we're starting to see. We've also seen a real spike around people's paydays in terms of making purchases. Now this is more nascent, and what we're seeing here is, and you can kind of imagine how we're all feeling. We've all got less disposable income. We know the macroeconomic conditions, and we're beginning to see many more purchases happen actually around that payday moment. For us, we're still working with hypotheses on certain retailers here. It's actually about whether people are spending more time researching and then they know what they're going to buy. And then as soon as that paycheck has landed, for want of better words, they're actually making their purchase. Definitely a big trend this year, though, is we're seeing many more retailers think about profitability, and many phrases like the path to profitability, making sure actually they're making sure that the company itself is on a secure financial footing. I think you've covered that actually a fair amount this year, and we're seeing many more retailers actually making sure that they're reaching the right kind of consumer. So not necessarily the volume sales, but the sales that deliver them the best value. So it's all about ROI and ROAS. And I think one of the interesting pieces there when we're thinking about how can you drive better average order values, it's something actually we see outside of retail as a sector. So if we sort of step back for a moment, we also work with a lot of travel clients. One of the interesting things there is we're seeing equally people are happy to invest in those sort of, let's say, more expensive holidays or packages, as long as it's right for them. So as long as the offer's right, they're happy to spend and invest. And when I think about seasonality, again, out of sector, but I think potentially interesting for the audience is travel used to be very much a two seasons per year, though, two big moments sort of, in the summer and then Christmas and January. And candidly, that's disappeared. We've found that when travel came back, when we were all able to start traveling again, it's never slowed down. So again, consumer behaviour feels really changed. And so in travel, it's almost like an always-on piece now. People are always looking for their next holiday. And so we're feeling that there's a real shift. And so because of that, we've got to be really mindful about how then we work with our clients and in general about capturing that demand where you see it.
I wish I was constantly looking for a new holiday. That would be rather nice.
I'm not saying everyone's taking them, but they're looking for them.
So you mentioned there a few kind of big promotional periods.
Yes.
So thinking about a promotional period such as, say, Black Friday, what role do you think the advertising campaign has in these sorts of big promotional periods?
Yes, it's a really interesting point. Again, there's a few things that we sort of recognise there and probably have some good familiarity with the audience. So one of the things which I think impacts how you can show up and make a difference with your customers is thinking about when people are researching. So what we're seeing now is actually people are researching a lot longer. So when they're researching, they're making searches actually on the retailer's site. So they're spending time thinking about and considering what purchase they're going to make. So they're not necessarily doing that conversion piece, sort of backs that payday, that payday moment, but they're doing a lot more research. And I think one of the reasons why people are actually buying around Black Friday, if you look at some stats from Statista, it's all about getting the best deal. So good amount of research goes into that. And it's also about Christmas shopping. There is a piece about buying for yourself as well. So it's that research piece and building up to it. And because of that, we feel that actually you need to be mindful. You need to be top of mind. You need to have that salience with those shoppers because they're doing all that research period and it's over a longer period of time. And for me, I think this is really important. We know disposable income is stressed. So people only have a certain amount. And when they've made that purchase, and it's for them. So you can only capture that opportunity once. So in terms of the advertising, what we're seeing and what we work with our clients on is how can you have that top of mind awareness throughout a longer period of time, because the research period feels like it's been a bit elongated there. I think equally, if we look at online ads, and again, it's a trend which has been borne out over the last couple of years, people actually expect them. They actually expect to find the offers from those digital ads, and almost half prefer them over other methods like email or offline. I think in part that's down to the fact that we all carry our mobile phones the whole time. Like, mine's sitting just over here. We like the immediacy of it all. So in that moment when you're building up to those sales period like Black Friday, if you know something's on, the best way to check it is your mobile phone because it's there. And interestingly, again, from Statista, if you look at it, almost half the audience felt that when they saw ads in the mobile environment last year, actually influenced their purchase intent. And actually 8% of them turned around and said actually influenced their sales behavior. It was actually because of an ad they went through and actually started to make that purchase. So I think it's really interesting. I think the last piece there is what we also know is we'll find that conversion rates peak around that moment too, around Black Friday. So we need to be mindful there. So again, when we're talking with clients and thinking about what they need to expect, it's all about making sure they understand conversion rates could double or even treble. That's what we've found over the last year or two. So it's making sure that people are prepared for that, and as such, they've planned for it, they know what to do. That's not only about creative and stock, but also pricing and making sure they're built in how to be ready for that Black Friday period.
So Black Friday is now very, very close on the calendar. We're nearly in September, and it's a bit of a bun fight trying to get all those shoppers to come to your retail website. So what can a retailer do to entice shoppers to actually come and buy from them this Black Friday?
Good shout. So I'll give you two quick things that I think people can do. So personalization, and then use artificial intelligence where you can. So personalization. So we know actually, even from your own recent research, if people are able to personalize their creative experience to an audience, they're almost 75%, 76% more likely to make that first purchase and that repeat purchase. Interestingly, that's entirely in line with the McKinsey research from a couple of years ago. So personalization is key. So if you can do it, make sure you can do it. Equally, when we're thinking about artificial intelligence, if you've got the capability to employ that, if you're working with a company which has those sorts of skills, then employ that, because it's a great way to drive average order value, have a better understanding of your audience, and make sure you're reaching them with the right sorts of products and services, so you can surprise and delight them through the entire stock range that you have, but again, making it personal to those particular consumers.
Making that advertised campaign for me, if you will.
Exactly, just for you, Matt.
So looking back at last year's Black Friday, what kind of are the key observations that you've picked up on?
Interestingly, so again, two pieces here. So the first piece is that actually that sales period was long. It's not about that short sort of 24, 48-hour window around Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It's not like that. Actually, it's a lot longer. So be prepared. Make your thinking last a lot longer. So from start of November, and actually I'd say continue into December. Really, frankly, there's still a lot of sales opportunities sitting there. The other piece is average order values rose last year. That's what we saw. So on average, it's about 9%. Home and garden more like 15, 16%. So again, this is probably a moment where, if the first part of the year has been about getting the right value as a customer, here's where you should be thinking more about the volume. Let's make Q4 really count for us as retailers. And
so looking ahead for this year's Black Friday, what are the kind of the primary things recommendations that you would give to a retailer planning their campaigns for this year?
Okay, good man. Right, so super quickly. First of all, plan for that longer period. Don't just make it like a one-day piece. What we find is, if clients who are planning over that sort of 4, 6, even 2 months all the way through into January, their campaigns are more effective, cost efficient as well. What we see is inventory gets more expensive over that Black Friday period. So plan for all of it to make sure you're top of mind and you have the right kind of efficiency and impact throughout it. The other piece is show up with the right kind of creative, surprise and delight those customers. So again, what we'll find is some customers we're thinking actually about each day, is there a different creative message they want to do? And they might change that a little bit further to make sure that the messaging to the different audiences they understand, so that they can be very precise in that kind of personalization offer. So for instance, if they know they've got a really good subset and audience who's loyal customers, potentially you might be looking at showing them items with a higher average order value, because that they trust the brand, more likely to convert. Those newer to the site, potentially it's something slightly different. So make sure the creative treatment is really strong. The last piece is, again, with consumer dynamics changing rapidly, just make sure you've got the right kind of technology that can have the best understanding of your consumers when they're on site and when they're off site, and in that web and app environment. So again, we'd suggest you work with companies who can really understand how to get the most out of artificial intelligence.
Simon, thank you very much. Very interesting stuff. Really, really pleased to have this session with you today. And I think I'm just going to pop round and we can have a cup of tea.
Brilliant, Matt. I'll put the kettle on. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.